Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Elisa and my business is FusionDIY. I want to thank you for joining me and I hope that you enjoy this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell so that every time I release a new video, you'll be notified. So my project for this week was actually an old window that I purchased at a flea market last fall. And I was really not sure what to do with it, and I was looking at some of the IOD transfers and I got inspired, so that's what I'm going to be doing with it today. But I have to tell you that as I started to work on this window, I actually pulled muscles in my low back. So I'm not going to be doing any talking through the video because I did a lot of moaning and groaning as I tried to move the window and bend over to paint it and apply the transfers. So I'm going to do a voiceover on it and I'll explain to you everything that I've done as I go through it, and I hope that you enjoy it. I'll also come back at the end and just share some other information with you. It's been a rough week here in Hunterdon County. We've had some flooding, and I'll show you the pictures of the Delaware River at the end of the video. So hang on, don't go away, and enjoy the video. So this is the window that I purchased at the flea market last year, and it was in good solid condition, although it just really needed to have a revamp. So here we go. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of the leftover pieces of caulk which haven't fallen out off of the window, and I did that by just taking a razor blade and very gingerly going behind as much as I could behind the caulking and then just kind of pulling it away from the window frame. It took a little while to get it done because some of the pieces were on there pretty strong, but then there were pieces that you'll see as I started to work on this window that just came off in big chunks, so it made that much easier for me to clean up the window. My thought was that I would paint the window, do the artwork on it, and then I would go back and caulk it later. And actually, when I got the window painted and I put a few nails in just to secure the window panes themselves, I changed my mind about doing that. I didn't really need to do it, but it was something that was a nice to do and not a must do. So, but you could see here how much of the caulking came off very, very easily. So as I was getting the caulking off the window, one of the things that kept happening was as my arm would come in contact with the frame of the window, I would get all this chipping, peeling paint stuck to my arm, or it would transfer into the window itself. So I didn't want to run the risk of getting any paint chips caught while I was trying to paint it. So I decided to go ahead and sand it down. And here I'm using 80 grit sandpaper just to get the really loose stuff off and also to smooth down the corners of the window so that they aren't so sharp. Now I'm taking the vacuum cleaner and I'm just vacuuming up all of the loose pieces of paint that came off the window and all of the caulking and any of the dust that accumulated on the window as I sanded it. So here I am using the color Cloudless by Apple Barrel, and I'm putting that on the window. This paint is somewhat old, which is why I decided to spray the window down a little bit so that it was a little bit easier to move the paint around on the window. And no, I don't paint this fast. I have actually speeded up the video so I don't have to bore you with watching me paint the entire window. But like I said, it was thick paint, so you could see I had problems with big chunks and trying to eliminate those as much as I possibly could. Now I'm using the Waverly Color Elephant, and I'm spreading that over the blue, trying to mix the colors a little bit and give it more of a dark sky. And I'm also using the Apple Barrel Color Black, and I'm blending the colors in. And this actually took a fairly long process, but this was not something that happened within a few minutes. I really had to play with it and keep trying the colors, trying to figure out what colors I liked, what colors I didn't like, whether I liked the blend or not. One of the things that I'm doing here is that I'm swirling the paint, and I found out afterwards that it was a very big mistake to do that, because when I went back and I looked, it just, on the other side, it was a mess. So I had to go back and paint it, which was fine. I didn't have a problem with that, but it was a laborious process, and it took longer than I would have liked it to, but I think a part of that was because my back was bothering me and I'd have to stop every so often just to rest my back. Again, I'm putting more blue here because I want more of a delineation of blue sky versus gray sky versus black sky. And so it took a couple of tries, and really, folks, the best thing that you can do is just keep on playing with it until you're happy with it. This is the first time that I've ever done something like this, so I really didn't know what to expect, but I just kept on playing with it until I was satisfied. And when I was satisfied, then I just stopped and I let the paint dry. So while I was grabbing some of the gray paint, I dropped some paint onto the blue part of the window, and so I decided that I was going to try to blot it off, but that didn't work. It only made it worse. So I decided to leave it alone and had to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to fix that while I finished the rest of that top part of the window there. So what I decided to do was just to wipe that portion of the paint away so that I could get that gray splotch up. And so I did. I wiped away the blue paint and I just repainted. So I'm going back over the blue paint again to make it a little bit darker. And as you can see, I'm using a very light hand as I go over it, because I don't want to smear what's already underneath. And so I just was very, very careful about how I spread the paint around and trying to blend it. And it was going actually pretty well. I was getting satisfied with the transition from blue sky to gray sky, and I was beginning to see my vision come to fruition, which was really exciting. Once the window was dry, I held it up to the light to see where I might have missed painting it. And unfortunately, there was a lot of places that I had missed. And you don't realize it when you're painting it from the back, but when you turn around and look at it from the front, you could see that there were many places that I missed. So I'm going back and giving it, yet again, another coat of the blue paint and another coat of the elephant, the gray. The black sky was pretty good, and there really wasn't any parts that I missed, so I didn't have to go back over that. But it was a tedious process, and it took more paint than I had anticipated that it would.
Once I got all of the painting done, I took a hairdryer to dry the paint because I really needed to speed up the drying time on this window. It was a Sunday that I was working on it, and I knew that I didn't have time during the week to do much work on the window, so I wanted to get as much done as possible.
The transfer that I chose to use was the Orchid Designs Wallflower Transfer. And you can see on the back they give you some suggestions as to how to use the transfer. But once you open the package and you take the transfer out, a transfer stick will actually fall out of the package as well. And that's the stick that you're going to use to adhere the transfer onto the glass. Before I adhere the transfer, I flipped the window over and I cleaned the glass before I put any transfers on, because your transfer is not going to stick to the window if there's dirt or fingerprints on the glass. So I was careful to do that. And then I pulled out a couple of pieces that I thought would really look pretty, peeled the back off, and then stuck the transfer to the window and started with my transfer stick to press the transfer onto the glass. Once the transfer is adhered to the window, I'm gently pulling off the grid sheet. And once I pull that off, then what I'm going to do is take the grid sheet and I'm going to go back over the transfer, rubbing down all of the edges just to make sure that nothing is bubbled and make sure that none of the edges are pulled up. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the right side of the window, and I put down my transfer and I'm going to use the transfer stick to rub it onto the glass. Now, similarly, I'm going to adhere the transfer onto the window and gradually pull up the grid sheet as I go. And then I'm going to turn over the grid sheet again, and I'm going to rub the transfer with the grid sheet, making sure that all of the edges are secured. Now you will see that there's one part in this window where I did not like the line right there where I'm pointing to. So what I did was I took a leaf, and the nice thing is that you can transfer over a transfer. So I took a leaf and I just decided to lay it down on that hard edge of the flower, and that's what I'm doing here. And my cat Dixie has decided to join in the fun. So here is the finished window. As I added more transfers to it, I realized that the white frame of the window really took away from the artwork on the glass. So I decided to paint the window using the elephant color from Waverly that I used on the glass. And it definitely needs to have some touch-ups. But I wanted to get it done so you guys had an opportunity to see it. So what did you guys think of my project? I hope that you enjoyed it. If you would like to make a comment, please do so in the comments section below, and I'll be happy to get back to you. I really enjoyed this process. It was the first time that I had done anything like this, so it was a learning experience for me, and I hope that you've learned something as well. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like by giving it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that the next time that I upload a video, you'll be notified. My booth is located at the Pickers Junction in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, and if you'd like to purchase that window, you will find it there. Once again, thanks for joining me today. Have a great week, and God bless. I'm on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River looking over into New Jersey, and you can see how high the water is. It's almost up to the roadway. And this is a video of how fast the water was moving.